Hi, everybody. I'm doing a podcast today rather than a live program at 6 o'clock. Michelle couldn't join me because of family obligations. I'm going to do a couple of quick answers to Northeast sports, Ohio sports questions, because there's a lot being asked and we all have opinions, and I can throw out some quick opinions, make this a nice, tidy little podcast. Obviously, we start out with tragedy, of course, and nobody wanted to see what happened in Vegas. It's a terrible situation, and I'm not going to get into political discussions about this. The whole thing is just difficult, and really better off left alone from that perspective. Then you have Tom Petty's passing, and just want to point out that Tom Petty did not die of a heart attack. I want to be clear about because people are misstating this on social media. He died of cardiac arrest, and there's a big difference between cardiac arrest and heart attack. All right, so as long as you understand that, you can piece together maybe what could have happened to Tom Petty. And there's a lot of grief outpouring because a very popular musician. But I do want to point out that a coroner has requested an inquest into the death of Tom Petty. Obviously, the coroner sees something that might not be exactly copacetic with the way this went down. It happened in the early morning hours, a week after a tour was completed, which was presumably the Heartbreakers' last tour. He was a heroin addict in 1997. And I guess what I'm trying to prepare people for, it's interesting, somebody wrote on social media, with Hefner's passing, which I didn't cry over, Tom Petty's passing, of course, the death of 52 innocent people in Las Vegas that we all cry over. What can happen next that could make this worse? And it's like, I'm just preparing you that when Prince died, it was drugs. These things happen in the world. A person with a previous history of a drug utilization of a central nervous system depressant, this is all speculation, folks. I certainly don't know anything about this, but a guy who comes off a tour might be celebrating. A guy might be off the wagon. You look at who died of cardiac arrest. I can give you a couple of examples. John Belushi died of cardiac arrest. Chris Farley died of cardiac arrest. Philip Seymour Hoffman died from cardiac arrest. And we know all those were, Prince died from cardiac arrest. We know that these people all passed away from cardiac arrest, but Hank Gathers did too, bringing this back into the world of sports. The Loyola of Marymount star player, and he had a heart defect. So you're either going to find a heart defect in Tom Petty, or you're going to find that he got a hold of some bad shit. In any event, that's what could be the next bad thing on the horizon. As far as Cleveland sports is concerned, how about some question and answers from Mr. Moohead? And we can start with the first one. Trevor Bauer in game one instead of Corey Kluber. And when I first read this, I really hit the ceiling. But once I've started reading about the circumstances, this is the way that Corey Kluber wanted it, to set himself up to be able to pitch again if necessary in a game five. The way that, and that they're only really probably looking at utilizing 3 starting pitchers in this 5-game best of 5 against the Yankees. And that's going to be Bauer and Kluber and Carrasco, and that even Tomlin will be relegated to the bullpen. It's not even clear at this point, but they could theoretically choose to utilize Clevenger and Salazar in a game rather than Tomlin. So I'm not going to jump to conclusions about whether Trevor Bauer deserves this or why not Corey Kluber, because there is numerology that makes, no, not like that kind of numerology, not like the numbers guy, but there is logic to this. All right. So no problem with Trevor Bauer starting, because that's the way mathematically it works out the best for the team. The next question is Alex Gonzalez instead of Yandy Diaz. This I do have a problem with. Tito Francona is just really, really big on these utility guys, whether it was Martinez before and now Alex Gonzalez. There's no way that Alex Gonzalez outperformed Yandy Diaz. In fact, if you take a look at the fielding, which is the critical factor when you're dealing with a utility infielder, Yandy Diaz made fewer errors than Alex Gonzalez and had a better fielding percentage at his position. Now, and he certainly hit better. It makes you wonder. And, I've seen people writing things on social media that, that Yandy Diaz got screwed, this, that, and the other. And I understand there's traffic involved at the position that he plays. And I'm not going to say that Gio Urshela didn't earn his spot, because his defense has been stellar. I mean, not just solid, but stellar. And I get that he's not a good hitter. The problem that I'm going to have is, when we get into, if not when, that's the wrong thing to say, Mr. Moohead, if we get into the World Series, playing National League teams where you have to hit your pitcher, having Roberto Perez and Gio Urshela and other people of that ilk all in the bottom of your lineup, and then your pitcher on top of it, that really blights your offensive thrust offensively. The only way you can handle National League team right now anyway would be to put Encarnacion at first, Carlos Santana in right, in order to get your big bats, up there. So I kind of feel bad for Yandy Diaz. I understand the traffic at the position, but he outperformed Alex Gonzalez, is clearly a better offensive player than Alex Gonzalez is. And, and the speed issue, that's the issue of Greg Allen. And so, why Greg Allen? And the answer is, he won the lottery. He can play center field, and we lost Bradley Zimmer. And we're playing a guy in Jason Kipnis who can't really play center field, who everyone's going to take an extra base on. He doesn't have the arm to play center field. It's going to be a problem. Here's the things that I know that make me scratch my cow head on this. First of all, if you look at the biggest success of the Cleveland Indians was after Jason Kipnis went away. And again, I've never been a big Kipnis fan because he doesn't put together back-to-back good seasons. He'll have a good season, then he gets hurt, and he doesn't come back from the injury, and he doesn't hit well. And then he comes back a year and a half later and has a solid year and stays healthy, and then he's down again for an entire – his down periods last as long as his good periods. He's like a Duncan yo-yo, up and down and up and down. And this really reeks of finding a spot for Jason Kipnis to thrust him into a center field position. And in the process, you have to bring Greg Allen along, a double-A guy who is in no way, shape, or form prepared to face major league pitching. I think that he proved this during the season. He is simply overmatched. And it is likely that you're going to see him in virtually every game, because Kipnis, if we do have a lead, is going to come out of the game because he's a defensive liability, and Greg Allen's going to go in. And they're going to try to minimize the number of at-bats that Greg Allen gets, and they could use him as a pinch runner as well. But as a double-A player who's not faced any of these pitchers in the league, he has no clue how to steal bases against major league pitching. Again, it's kind of like we're fitting pieces in because we've created positions for people that we like. And that's the thing with Brantley. And look, I love Michael Brantley, don't get me wrong, but because he was hurt for such a long time, misdiagnosed, or whatever the case may be, and because he still can't run and he's got a bad tendon, he can pinch hit. Or you can put him as a DH. But, and again, if you do that, then you got to have Encarnacion at first and Carlos Santana in right field. You could always do that. It doesn't give you the best right fielder in the world, and it doesn't give you your best first baseman, but it does get that bat into the lineup if you want Brantley out there. Brantley had no opportunity to get on track, because by the time he came around to play, the minor leagues were over with, and there was no AAA to go down to and take practice swings. So we're hoping that he can somehow, without any real practice, come back to anywhere near the hitting form. But we understand that Brantley is a guy who they want on the roster because he's been with the team so many years. But in so doing, you recognize that he cannot play in the field. So you've got to carry certain players in order to justify a Michael Brantley or a Jason Kipnis on the roster for postseason. We'll see how it all plays out. Yesterday's game played out, unfortunately, like I thought it would. And look, I mean, the Minnesota Twins had a hell of a season. The Minnesota Twins, their pitching isn't strong enough. The Minnesota Twins got rid of their closer at midseason, and they had basically gone into tank mode and somehow caught fire. And boy, in the first inning, it looked like the momentum was going to continue. Severino looked scared shitless. He looked like Jabba Chamberlain with the midges. He looked terrible, didn't he? Couldn't get but one hitter out and was just all over the strike zone. And I will say this, the umpire had a pretty narrow strike zone for a playoff game, don't you think? Because there were a lot of pitches that both starting pitchers made that were just barely off the plate, and they were called balls consistently for both pitchers. But when Irvin Santana could not command his slider, that's the ball game, because he's a fly ball pitcher otherwise. And with no bite on that slider, it was bye-bye time, and the Yankees ran over the Twins 8-4. That's who we'll be playing now. But I was shocked at how bad Severino looked, especially in light of how great Severino pitched against the Indians. Now the Yankees are going to have a question. If there was that much pressure on the young man for the one and done, how is he going to face a full series where he has to pitch twice? Well, probably not, but maybe, depending on the desperation of the Yankees. It's an interesting question. So the answers on the Cleveland Indians are, again, I'm not overly thrilled with Jason Kipnis. I feel he lost range at second base. He was usurped, at second base because we weren't really turning double plays because he has a weak arm at second base, let alone center field. I hope this does not come back to haunt the Cleveland Indians. I'll leave it at that. Next question. We'll go to the Cleveland Browns. So Josh McCown is saying it's critical to stick with Hugh Jackson, and it's unfair to evaluate him until the talent gets better that's playing for the Browns. Look, Josh McCown's lucky to still be alive, and he won't be when he's 57. And I respect the man. He's courageous to a point of foolishness. But he knows of what he speaks, in the sense that he knows that if they tore it down to the studs last year, to quote Sashi Brown, that the studs are still clearly visible. I don't see the Cleveland Browns winning a football game this year. And to tie this in, the post-game show, Moohead Radio Browns post-game shows are setting record audiences. 681 watched the Bengals post-game show, which really breaks my theory that that the fans would go away. It seems that through putting this stuff through YouTube, that the show has been discovered by a larger audience. Our subscriptions are going up rapidly. And I think that, I like to think that the no bullshit approach that we're taking on the post-game show is appealing to fans who are tired of the local media just kind of sugarcoating things for the Cleveland Browns. As far as firing Hugh Jackson, right now, Hugh Jackson said something that is true. I mean, and I'm not saying that a lot of what he says is true, because he also said that, that Deshaun Kaiser played lights out on Sunday. And I don't know. He played like the lights were out, but I don't know about lights out. But what he said regarding Kenny Britt is, is what my father used to say about business. You know, he's like, you got to get rid of the dirty water before you bring in clean, right? Right. And, you know, you gotta, you're dealing with Kenny Britt here. You got to have something better than Kenny Britt if you're going to yank him out. If you're going to get rid of the dirty water, you got to have clean. He don't got clean. He has nobody on the bench who can play the position. I mean, Kenny Britt can actually technically get off the line of scrimmage and get into the pattern. He cannot catch the football to save his soul. And he's obviously psychologically damaged coming to Cleveland. He's $34 million richer, but psychologically damaged. And we don't have anybody to play. Now, that's got to be an indictment of the front office more than anything else. And I don't look at it any other way. And the whole Kenny Britt issue, we all agree he's terrible. But the saddest part is that in an offseason where we added no help at the wide receiver position except Kenny Britt, and we didn't even draft UDFAs to try to find the next best wide receivers, we end up with this dearth of talent at the position. It speaks very badly of the way the organization is run and the people who are making decisions. So is it unfair to evaluate Hugh Jackson? I don't know any coach that would win with this team. It's happening to Greg Williams, who's a better defensive coordinator than this because he's got no talent to work with. I don't know. I don't care for Hugh Jackson's mouth, but I don't think that there's any coach who would coach this team up to even a couple of wins. I just don't see it. The talent is simply not there. And it just speaks volumes when you're just raging on about this tremendous kick returner you have in Jabril Peppers. And he's slow, folks. He's slow. He's not a dynamic kick returner. It's like, if this is the assessment of people based on viewing him, I mean, Jabril Peppers does not pass the eye test. He brought out a number of balls, and there just is not that burst, and there isn't that vision. And I've seen some good ones. I mean, I watched Eric Metcalf play, so I know what a really good punt and kick returner is all about. We watched Joshua Cribbs, who was more of a straight line strong guy, which was what I kind of thought Jabril Peppers might be in the mold of. But I'm not seeing a burst from Jabril Peppers. I'm not seeing a vision to cut to the right part of the field. I'm seeing far too many fair catches on punts where he has 5 yards in front of him to make a move. Again, the talent assessment, the thing that's really unfortunate is we go through the preseason and the Cleveland press makes comments. And the comments that they make are like, oh, this player is really looking great in practice. And oh, this guy's the real deal. And then when you put him out in game speed, it's not so. We're seeing a lot of people who are just failing the eye test right now. Another person who failed the eye test to me in the preseason was Myles Garrett. And he's back now to play this weekend. But you know something? I saw nothing from him that looked even remotely explosive in the preseason. You're going to say, well, maybe it's because of his ankle. And it's like, you know something? A guy who has explosion at that position, he may make the wrong move. He may leave a lane open because he over pursues, but burst is not something you can fake, and being able to beat your man is not something that you can fake. It didn't happen during the preseason when he played, and I don't think it's going to make a damn bit of difference if he plays. I see no proof that this guy is like the real deal, because most of the young guys who come out as phenom pass rushers right out of the box are causing commotion. Keep your eye on number 95 out there. Keep your eye on him and see how many times he even gets close to the quarterback, and then talk to me about prolific pass rusher. I'm just not buying into that either. I don't think this organization could determine talent if it bit them in the ass. All right. Now the Cavaliers, because we are right on the cusp of a preseason game in which LeBron James will not be playing, but I consider that a really good thing. One, they're playing it safe, and believe me, if he had to play, he could, but he doesn't have to, so he won't. LeBron has a history because of his athleticism of rolling ankles. This is nothing new to him, and there's no reason to put him in a situation where he has to play. But what it does do is it gives an opportunity for D-Wade to play the 2, and it gives an opportunity to Derrick Rose to be able to start at the 1. We'll see what a lineup, if LeBron has to take time off for injury or any other reason during the course of the season, if they're willing to accept $100,000 fines at the team level. We're going to see what's going to be on the floor when LeBron is not. 4-23, if you're wondering, the record of the Cavaliers when LeBron hasn't played since he's returned to the team. And to be honest with you, Kyrie Irving couldn't help that either. So we're going to get a real nice look at Kevin Love at center. We're going to get a look at how, whether the burst that is being reported in Derrick Rose is real or imagined just because they're going at half pace in scrimmages, or whether he's able to take NBA players still off the dribble. We're going to see Wade and passing and ball movement and the things that we want to see. J.R. Smith shooting threes. We're going to see the floor spread, a lineup that has those guys out there without LeBron James. Think of LeBron, how much more stretched it is when you have a great passer. But it's gonna give Derrick Rose a chance to be a facilitator, which is what he claims he wants to do. And with no LeBron out there, he's going to have to be a primary assist guy. And that means that D-Wade is going to get some catch and shoot opportunities, that Kevin Love will be bringing his 5-man out so that he can take some outside shots, that we have J.R. Smith on the floor. And he can do the same thing. So you're going to see a lot of floor stretching. Here's another question. Do you believe Shumpert? The way the story goes is that Tyronn Lue had a talk with Iman Shumpert, and that the content was that here's what we need from you, and you have to go out and do it. And basically, Iman Shumpert is telling everybody who will listen that he's in with this, and he's good with it. I really have reservations about this because I don't believe Iman Shumpert. And it's because of what he is still saying, not because of what I think, but it's what's coming out of his mouth. And I will quote Iman Shumpert as if a new haircut is going to change what's inside of his head. I don't think so. Shumpert, by the way, has a contract with an $11 million option for next season. So, the team has actively attempted to get rid of him, but nobody seems to have wanted him. Here's some of the things that Shumpert said. With all the rumors that came out, nobody on the organization side coming out to say, like, Iman didn't say that, I felt like I was in the dark about everything, and like I don't really know. All I can think about is where I'm going to be next season. That was my concern. And Shumpert spent all of the offseason hearing the rumors, as Kevin Love has for the last couple of years, that he's not going to be in Cleveland. So what Shumpert says, it was time for him to have a grown man conversation with the coach to find out exactly where he stands. And basically, he was told where he stands. And, here, I'm just going to quote him, and you can determine for yourselves what you guys think, but I'm telling you what I think. My concern is about playoff time, and if I feel like I need to work on something to get more time on the floor, Shumpert said. I felt like during the finals, I wanted to play more. I felt like the game I played more, I believe it was game 2, I felt like I was effective and I wanted to be more a part of the game. I felt like I could change the game in different ways. I may not change it the way another guy did, but I felt like the way we did when I was in the game, it helped us. Now, I'm going to take this and count how many times I, me, or my was said. And my concern, I'm going to read this differently now. My concern is about playoff time. And if I feel like I need to work on something to get more time on the floor. I felt like during the finals, I wanted to play more. I felt like the game I played more. Game 2, I felt like I was effective and I wanted to be more a part of the game. I felt like I could change the game in different ways. I may not change it the way another guy did, but I felt like the way we did it when I was in the game helped us. I don't remember him helping us in the playoffs, folks. In fact, what I saw was Shumpert refusing to shoot the basketball because he looked like he had a pin up his ass and you couldn't pull it out with a tractor. All right. But he is part of a new second unit. They're calling it the new look second unit. And will normally have Dwayne Wade, who they're looking at as a backup point guard, Kyle Korver, Jeff Green, Tristan Thompson, and Iman Shumpert. Lewis said that Shumpert's going to get more chances to run pick and rolls. Lovely. Here's more from our friend Iman with the new haircut. I know throughout the year, minutes played and the age of the guards we have, I'm one of the younger guys. I know there's going to be minutes in rotation, Shumpert said. I'm ready to go to war. I don't mind the competition. I like war. So it's like if I feel like I could be part of the war and I can spill some blood, I'm all for it. I'll continue. But if I feel like they want to go in a different direction and they feel like they want to do some other stuff, I want them to be honest with me. It helped me a lot just being able to come in here and have a positive energy and a positive influence on the team. I don't think he was a positive influence on this team last year at all. In fact, he would be at the top of my fucking list as what was wrong with the Cavaliers, and maybe he was high half of the goddamn time he was playing, because as far as I'm concerned, positive energy, I saw no energy from Iman Shumpert last year. None. He goes on. And I'm not going to keep doing the eye thing because it's going to aggravate the hell out of you. With me as a player, I try and at times just block out what I got going on personally or what I feel like I bring to the table. It's because I'm thinking about the bigger picture of us being a team, and you got to try to buy into a role and do all the other things on the court that can help the team win. I'm just sort of done with the whole letting my emotions or letting my, I don't want anybody to think I'm shooting too much get in the way of play. What? You were shooting too much, and you were turning the ball over every time you put the goddamn ball on the floor because you started thinking that you were a one-on-one player and that you were going to Kyrie with the ball. Now, this is where my patience runs out with Iman Shumpert. And if I'm the Cavaliers, I get rid of him. I'm going to be more assertive with myself on the offensive end because I felt like a lot of times during the finals, we needed another guy to make plays, and I felt like I could do it because during the year at times I would shy away from it for the concerns of the team. Nobody trusted me with the ball, and I don't like that feeling at all. The reason they didn't trust you with the ball is because you kept turning it over. Guys got about the worst handles on the team next to Tristan Thompson. The last thing I want to do is see him going through his legs out front with the ball and trying to drive, because it either ends up with the ball being stripped or him throwing the ball away, and he doesn't shoot well. Here's more. I don't like the media and everybody writing stuff like, he's a defensive player. I don't like that shit. I don't like it because I know what I can do with the ball, and I know what's going on. Yes, we all know what you can do with the ball, too. It's like I try to defer and make sure everybody's happy and make sure we got a good thing going. But if we're going to sit here and say we need playmakers, then I'm going to be aggressive. We don't need playmakers. We need defense. Take a look at the statistics of the team. It was our defense that fell down. We brought in that idiot from the Phoenix Suns because of Griffin, and our defensive persona totally went away. Totally went away. And one of the biggest reasons it went away was because of Iman Shumpert. Another reason it went away was because of J.R. Smith. But J.R. Smith at least had health catastrophes in his life that he had to deal with. I don't know. The only thing I know that Shumpert was dealing with was his own head and marijuana conviction. I don't think that the team needs this. And he doesn't like being called a defensive player. And this is the poison that is already in this man's system. When you deny that what you do best is what you do best, and you don't want to be identified as a defensive player, you're no longer a team guy. If you want to be more aggressive with the ball and you want to do more offensive things, even though you're a career 39% shooter from 2, fuck 3 from 2. He had his highest 2-point shooting average of his career, 41%. That's not even Ricky Davis, folks. Not even Ricky Davis. An 18-year-old LeBron James came into the league and shot better than that. Please. I don't need him to be offensively aggressive. You need him to be a defensive player, but he don't like being called a defensive player. Fuck him. Fuck him. He's not Patrick Beverley. Fuck him. He's not Bruce Bowen. Fuck him. These people are defensive players who know that you get the ball in the hands of the scorers. Your job is to stop your man. Period. I think I've said enough about this. I don't want to be looking at Iman Shumpert during the course of the season. I'll be interested in seeing how the Cavaliers look tonight. And as far as anything else is concerned, Kyrie Irving, I'll end on this note. Kyrie Irving, I watched the Celtics play. I mean, nothing's funnier than the video that's circulating on the internet about, Tommy Heinsohn talking about looking at Aaron Byrne in the men's shower. I mean, basically, I was in the locker room looking at Aaron Byrne in the shower, and boy, he's really put together. It's like, what the fuck? You should have seen the size of the cock on that guy. What the hell is this? I mean, at what point are they just going to shut the microphone off and just say, Tommy, go to pasture. We're putting you to pasture now. You're too old to be doing this. But believe it or not, his peering, and it's really gross and it's disturbing thinking about it, but his peering at Aaron Byrne in the men's shower is not the worst thing that he said. The worst thing that he said was, Kyrie Irving was the man in Cleveland last year. And it's like, something? You're a stupid fuck old man. Kyrie Irving was the man? For one shot. Yes, I'll agree. I'm not going to take that moment away from Kyrie Irving. He's not the man. And he couldn't be the man. And I'm telling you, he's not going to be the man in Boston. And I'll explain it to Tommy Heinsohn this way. I'm looking at your roster, all right? And I think Gordon Hayward's a fine player, nothing wrong, but he's never made a long playoff run, so we don't know how he responds as far as that's concerned. But he's a good player, and he's got some versatility. But Aaron Byrne is a slow white guy at center, and if you didn't like Kelly, whatever his name, Olynyk was, you're not going to care for Aaron Byrne either. He can set a screen, and he can rack up 5 fouls, because Brad Stevens tells him to punch somebody in the groin or set illegal screens or whatever. That he can do. But other than that, yeah, he's the physicality. He's the enforcer, the Kendrick Perkins white guy, but Kendrick Perkins kind of guy. But he's a defensive liability. I mean, if Kevin Love plays the 5 and Aaron Byrne has to go out and guard him, I mean, bye. Just leave him at the bus stop. Then I'm looking, Marcus Smart. That's great that Marcus Smart, he's lost a lot of weight, and that's good. I mean, he's a good defensive player, and he could improve his shooting, and he looked okay when I saw him shooting the basketball, so that's good for the Celtics. But you lose Jay Crowder, and that's an important defensive guy. And you lose Avery Bradley, and that's a real important defensive guy. And you lose Isaiah Thomas, and you're asking Kyrie Irving basically to not only make up the points that Isaiah Thomas scored, but to add more to the team as a passer and point guard. And that means you've got to play better defense than Isaiah Thomas played, and you've got to distribute the ball better than Isaiah Thomas did. Now, Kyrie's going to find out real quickly when he starts out the season playing point guard that if people start clanking shots, then he's going to become frustrated and start trying to do it all himself, which is basically what Isaiah Thomas did because guys would clank the ball up. We played the Celtics. We swept the Celtics. It's nothing new to us, okay? And I'm looking at what else they have on the floor. They got Tatum, who's 19 years old. You can't count on a 19-year-old guy. Jaylen Brown. Jaylen is what, 20 years old, 21? And these are promising young players. Don't get me wrong, but these are not guys you make long, deep playoff runs with when they're 19, 20 years old. And expecting Kyrie Irving to turn them into 24-year-old savvy vets, it isn't going to happen. Do you think Jaylen Brown's going to be able to knock down jumpers when Kyrie spins into the lane and kicks it out? Do you think these people are going to, Al Horford, do you think Al Horford can last 82 games without injury? The man is like a pillar of salt. He's not young. And people say, well, the Cavaliers are an old team. Well, Al Horford is right there at that age too. And, I don't see it. Now, do I think that the Celtics are a bad team? No, I don't. Do I think they're as good as they were last year? No, I don't. I don't understand how in the short term, if you're getting rid of Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder and Avery Bradley and those guys and even Olynyk, and you're replacing Olynyk with a wash and Aaron Byrne, and you're replacing Isaiah Thomas with a points wash in Kyrie Irving, and the upside of Kyrie is his willingness to pass the ball, which is not something he showed in Cleveland, and his willingness to play defense, which his body hasn't proven able to hold up to during a regular NBA season. I don't see how that makes you better. Losing Jay Crowder and Avery Bradley kills your defense. That kills your defense. If you're going to have to play hard defense with Kyrie Irving for the minutes he's on the floor, you're going to lose some of that offensive ability, and his legs are going to wear down during the season. And you think that lineup with whoever's coming off the bench for the Boston Celtics, you think that their coach is going to be able to weave some kind of a magic spell to turn them into a team that's better than LeBron and Kevin and Derrick Rose and D-Wade? These are all guys who know how to win. These are guys with playoff pedigree. And even if they're not at the top of their games in some instances, they carry up here the calmness. You control their minutes, and if you can keep them at least healthy, they have the mental aptitude and experience to be able to excel in the postseason. And then you're looking below that. You've got Kyle Korver, who can knock down threes. For now, you have Channing Frye, and I don't know whether that's going to go on, who can knock down threes. I'm not going to talk about Shumpert because you know how I feel about that. You've got Richard Jefferson, who might be a little long in the tooth, but played pretty well last year. You've got Tristan Thompson now coming off the bench, who can get your rebounds and keep things going that way. Honestly, and then you're going to have D-Wade with the second unit. You're going to have J.R. Smith out there, and it's going to be a mix and match scenario. Do you really think these Boston Celtics, from a 9-man rotation perspective over the course of 82 games, has as much talent as the Cleveland Cavaliers? I just don't see it. I don't see it at all. And in fact, what I see is every reason for Kyrie to leave Boston in 2 years, because what will happen, if I'm correct, is that if it doesn't go their way and guys don't start knocking down open shots, Kyrie's going to become selfish, pressing too hard to do it all himself. His shooting percentage will go to hell because there's going to be no complimentary piece like LeBron James to open up his world. And the fans are going to blame Kyrie because that's what they do in Boston. They point their finger at the black guy. And I'm just telling you the history of the town. I'm not trying to make this a racial issue, but if you ask Bill Russell, just read Bill Russell's book. He'll tell you all about racism in Boston. And he was an icon. He won countless championships with the Boston Celtics. But they still hated on him. I mean, look at Mo Vaughn. I mean, look what he did for the organization. And they still hated on him. You ask anybody who's played there, it's really difficult. And you look at the people who were the icons in Boston, who they talk about most. It's guys like Red Auerbach, Tommy Heinsohn, John Havlicek, Larry Bird. You know, you can go on. It's like they don't talk about Dennis Johnson as a defensive stalwart in Boston. No. It's Danny Ainge, believe it or not, and Larry Bird, and Bailey Howell, and all the white guys who played in Boston all those years. You still don't talk about Sam Jones? No. They had to talk about Bill Russell because he was unique for the time, but they flipped him shit. It's probably why Bill Russell was throwing up before games whenever he played. It wasn't a nervous stomach. It was just being in Boston, you know? It's all going to play out. Oh, one more question Mr. Moohead has to answer. What do you think of this new NBA All-Star Game format? Wait a minute. I'm getting a tremor. Tremor in my hand. You know, look. Sell out to superstars. That's what the league is. And that's what the league's about. Oh, you know, we can, you know, it's mix and match. You know, why do we have to have, you know, Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and all of our favorite Warriors playing on one team and, you know, LeBron James and Kevin Love and all the Cavaliers playing on another team? And why should we have LeBron James and Kyrie Irving playing on the same team when they could be playing on different teams? And if LeBron James is like the captain and he doesn't pick Kyrie, ooh, we have more juicy tidbits to write about, don't we? It's like tabloid sports, and I fucking hate it. And I don't care about the All-Star Game anyway. You're not going to breathe new life into an exhibition where nobody tries. I would have opted to get rid of the All-Star Game. Well, instead, now it's going to be playground style where we pick teams. Well, pick my ass. I really don't care. Thanks a lot for tuning in to this Moohead Radio podcast. Thank you so much for your support on the Browns halftime and postgame shows. Yes, they're going to continue through all 16 losses. You betcha. I'm going to be there. And we'll see if we can grow this audience to 1,000 strong. An army of naysayers about the Cleveland Browns. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back with you on Friday for the NFL Pick Show, where we'll pick Cleveland to lose again. Until then, hasta la vista, pasture heads. Have a good day and night.